The politics lead now. A startling prediction today from the president's former lawyer, John Dowd, about what we may or may not see from special counsel Robert Mueller when he wraps his investigation. Take a listen.
I don't think there'd be a report. The rules of the department say no report.
Wait, you don't think there's going to be a report? Mr. Dowd, please explain.
So you're saying when Mueller's report drops, it's going to be a flop. You're saying we're not going to...
Well, I will be shocked if anything regarding the president is made public, other than we're done.
Given the months and months of public interest in the special counsel's investigation, that prediction was something of a surprise. Caitlin Collins, is that the prevailing wisdom at the White House, that there is not going to be any sort of report that's actually issued?
They're not sure. They don't know if it's going to come out. They feel like it's going to come out soon, but they don't know what it's going to look like, how it's going to drop, anything like that. They're kind of on the same side that we are, because a lot of people actually in the White House don't try to talk about the Mueller investigation. It's a topic a lot of people try to avoid unless the president directly engages them. But I thought that his comments were fascinating, especially given in light of what Bill Barr, who is about to become the next attorney general, it looks like, judging by the votes, has said and has not committed to making the report public either. And then when the president was asked today, will you commit to making the report public, he didn't answer that question, even though he had just answered a series of other questions.
So, Jackie, take a listen. We just heard just minutes ago from the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Burr, talking about Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer. And he seemed to have some rather harsh words about the fact that his former lawyer, the president's former lawyer, he seemed to have some rather harsh words for Cohen not showing up. Take a listen.
He's already stiffest on being in Washington today because of an illness, yet on Twitter, a reporter reported he was having a wild night Saturday night, eating out in New York with 5 buddies. Didn't seem to have any physical limitations, and he was out with his wife last night. Well, I would prefer to get him before he goes to prison. But you know, the way he's positioning himself, not coming to the committee, we may help him go to prison.
Pretty strong. Burr doesn't say much publicly about the investigation, and certainly not along that tenor and tone.
No, he's not a flamethrower by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm starting to think that Michael Cohen doesn't have a lot of respect for Congress, considering that he lied to them once, got in trouble for it, and then now is making excuses as to why he can't come in front of the committee. But, you know, Burr's right. They'll get it one way or the other.
And there was a moment where President Trump last night in his rally in El Paso cited something that Burr had said. Take a listen. Here is something that President Trump said last night.
They've interviewed over 200 people. They've studied hundreds of thousands of documents and pages. And Richard just announced that they found no collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. Collusion.
Richard in that quote is, of course, Chairman Richard Burr. And he weighed in on that quote from the president as well this afternoon. Here's what Burr had to say.
Just saying what factually we found to date. We haven't finished with our investigation.
So he's saying that they haven't found any evidence of a conspiracy yet. The investigation's not done, but they haven't found anything yet.
Yeah, I'm more curious to see what Robert Mueller has found, since he's actually done a serious and thorough investigation with a grand jury and so forth, and it's harder to lie to Mueller than to Congress, as we've just seen with Michael Cohen and others. So, and I believe we will know incidentally. I think John Dowd is still being loyal to the president and is trying to lay some predicate for perhaps Attorney General Barr not releasing the report. But we will know what Mueller finds, basically. Either we'll know it through speaking indictments by Mueller, in which he'll lay it out in court cases, or we'll know it because his report will be subpoenaed by the House Judiciary Committee, or I think there'll be such pressure on the Attorney General to release the report, maybe with a few redactions, that we will know it. It's inconceivable to me that they're going to be able to keep that quiet. And I think we will find. I mean, Manafort met with someone very close to the GRU, to the Soviet regime, to Putin, in the very beginning of August, to brief him on proprietary polling information and analytics. I mean, maybe that's not collusion. Maybe it's not illegal. Maybe they didn't. It was just a courtesy. Manafort was trying to grease the skids to have for his future clients. Or maybe it was, kind of collusion. I don't know.
What happens to Democrats? What happens to the progressive left if Mueller or the Senate Intelligence Committee ultimately say we couldn't find any evidence of conspiracy? We found, the items we found here and there, but we haven't found the evidence that Democrats have been determined to say is there.
Well, I think the issue right now, though, is that whereas maybe they won't find it in the initial investigation, we now know that before I was saying it was like layers of an onion. Now I feel it's more like tentacles, because as we know, Michael Cohen, it started as one thing and it has led to other investigations, right? And so in each of these instances, we now have the Southern District of New York looking at the inauguration. We have we have Manafort, which sort of led to other investigations. So I suspect that there will be some hope for Democrats in terms of what ultimately will be found. But that being said, I think it's still pretty clear, and most Democrats believe that if it was not illegal, it was certainly unethical. And I certainly think that at the end of the day, when you lay it all out, it definitely creates a picture of someone who was willing to skirt the rules at a minimum to attain power and stay in power. And I think that is going to, remember, Democrats vote overwhelmingly, American people overwhelmingly voted for Democrats in the midterm elections to put a check on this president in the House election. So I think regardless, that people want them to have the power to continue to investigate, and I think the Democrats in the House are going to continue to be very aggressive in those investigations.
And that's what the White House is more worried about. The president is happy to tout what he said last night, quoting what Richard Byrd has said so far. But the White House is preparing for the onslaught of these investigations that are already hitting them. And that's what they're more concerned about, is that there's going to be just dozens of these that are hammering them on not just the president's financial interests, but basically every aspect of his presidency. And that's what they've been preparing for since the midterms. But I think a lot of the widespread conclusion has been that people in the White House aren't ready for what the next 2 years is really going to look like when they're going up against all of these investigations against the Democrats, something that has greatly irritated the president.